Well, everyone, I've got some good news. The 2007 Kia Sorento 3.8 automatic two-wheel drive lives.
Initially, there is some chatter coming from the engine, which sounds like it's coming from the belt tensioner. However, after idling the vehicle a while, the chatter went away on its own. Also, the power steering fluid was a little low and was resulting in a slight whine. I didn't have any extra fluid, so I will add some later and see if that goes away.
This car was bought brand new by my older brother in 2007 from the dealership, and he drove it, I think, about 80,000 miles or so, and then he sold it to my younger brother, and my younger brother had it for the rest of the time. It's now got roughly 150,000 miles on it, but it appears the oil had not been changed in a long time, and it all eventually leaked out. The little bit of oil it had in it was very sludgy, but I was told by my dad that, well, my dad didn't know, in his defense, but he thought it was just a bad battery. He said it's not turning over. I think it's a bad battery. So I drove all the way up to Kansas to pick it up because he was just going to junk it. He said I can have it free if I want it. So I went to pick it up thinking, man, this thing's not bad. I can put some new fluids in the battery and make it work. First thing I did when I got up there was we just tried to jump start it. I said, yeah, bad battery can sometimes even a jump start wouldn't work. So we pulled the battery out, hooked up jumper cables to his golf cart. They were getting glowing hot. And it wasn't engaging. I said, well, it's probably the starter. So we get under if you've ever messed with these, the starters are dang near impossible to get to. I was under there hitting it with what I had, and I couldn't get it to turn over. I'm like, it's still probably the starter. Well, then I thought to pull the dipstick. I pulled the dipstick, and sludge all over the dipstick. And I was like, not looking so good. But I had already committed, already driven that far, so I went ahead and picked it up. Got here, I pulled the intake and the spark plug out, and had everything off, and I could not turn the motor over whatsoever. With a breaker bar, and I thought, this thing's shot. I drained the oil. That's when I really realized it was really bad. Lots of sludge. It was really dirty. I knew it was toast, and it was probably going to need a new engine. So I was debating on if it was even worth it, if I should just go junk it. I mean, it's an '07. It's a Kia, so it's not really got that high of a resale value. They're not really known for being the great cars. But the more I kind of looked at this car, the more I actually kind of liked it. The inside, it's an EX. It's got a lot of the bells and whistles. It's got TPMS. It's got auto climate control. For an '07, it was pretty high up. By today's standards, it's not, but it's still, it still makes a pretty decent car. So, leather interior, power windows, power locks, keyless entry, the whole 9 yards. And it's got a trailer hitch on it. It says it can tow 5,000 pounds. Looking under the vehicle, it's actually on a truck frame. It's a full box frame the whole way back. It's not a unibody, and it's rear-wheel drive. It's got a rear end. So the more I thought about it, like, you can't really buy small SUVs anymore that are built this way. So I thought, well, I mean, I may as well see, and after I probably thought about it for about 2 months, and I finally decided, yeah, I'll pull the trigger. Let's go ahead and take the risk. I've done engine swaps before, not really extensively, but I have done them. I've got a shop that's, it's hot. It's 100 something degrees outside. It's air conditioned in my shop. This gives me an excuse to do something inside where it's cool. So there I go. Just last week I ordered a Junkyard motor from Callahan in Dallas. This is the first time I've ever done something like that. And I was surprised. It was $700 delivered free. They pull it. The donor vehicle had 140,000 miles on it. I was a little skeptical, but it had a 60-day warranty. Obviously, once I've put as much work into it as putting this motor in, the warranty is less appealing. I guess it would save me $700 if it wasn't working, but I still spent multiple days working on this. So anyway, it came in a few days ago. I had my neighbor who's a mechanic look over it, and he said it looked really good. He said, it looks like it has 140,000 miles on it, but there wasn't any obvious signs of any problems. There were no, it had, you know, dirt and stuff that's been collected from oil around the block, but there were no signs of any new oil leaks or anything like that. So he told me just, do the water pump and the spark plugs and drop it in there. I was gonna do the valve cover gaskets, but after he looked at it, he said he wouldn't touch the valve covers because they weren't leaking. So why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, and they're not that hard to get to. Everything's relative. This car is not an easy to work on car by any means. It was actually quite involved. But once you've done it, then now anything on that car seems like it's a piece of cake. When I was first pulling the alternator off, I remember thinking this is stupid. Now I'm pretty sure I could pull that alternator off in about 5 minutes. It's not that bad. So I'm gonna go over some of the things I did to this. We just literally finished dropping this engine in today. We just put the finishing touches just enough to get it to run, and we fired it up. And I'd used a lot of WD-40 on getting all this stuff to go on. So when we first fired it up, this whole shop smoked up real bad. There was like a big fog. So we opened the doors, get all the fans going, and then let it idle for about 15 minutes, and it all cleared up. And it got quieter and quieter the longer it ran. I think the tensioner had a little bit of a chatter to it, the belt tensioner, but as it ran a while, the chatter went away. There's still a little bit of a whine coming from the power steering pump, but looking at it, it's low on fluid, so I'm going to go get some fluid and see if that gets the whine to go away. It's probably not that big of a deal, but let me see what else. The battery that was in on this car would not maintain a charge. You could charge it and it held it for about a day, so that means obviously the cells were weak in it. The batteries for these are expensive. That's a lot when you're trying to get a almost free car to run. So I ended up buying a battery with higher cranking amp capacity than the stock one at Atwood's that had dual posts, and it was just a generic battery. I bought it. I think it was on sale for like $60 or $70, so really reasonable for a high power battery. I dropped it in. It fit in the case, but the terminals didn't quite line up. I couldn't get them to meet up. So I just kind of thought, well, for that price, I'll make it work. And now that I just put the battery back in and I haven't gone through and put those clips back on to hold the wiring harness together, and they fit. So I think it was just those clips were pulling them too tight. Now I've got it stretched, so it probably doesn't need the clips. So save some money there. Hopefully that's a good decision. So I haven't finished putting the whole thing back together yet. I do have to finish doing the brake pads and the rotors. I've got them actually sitting right here behind the camera. I'm going to get those thrown on. I did new shocks all around the vehicle. I bought new tires, not because it really needed them. It was because there were two different sizes on this. The ABS light is on and the traction control light is on, and my neighbor told me that's pretty he said if you don't have the factory size tires, those lights come on, especially if the tires are different sizes. You probably can't tell, but the rear tires are the actual size they're supposed to be, and the front tires were there were 3 of those on the vehicle when I got it. So I bought 4 new Cooper tires, American Cooper tires, and I bought new TPMS sensors to go in them. So once those TPMS sensors arrive, I'm gonna mount those TPMS sensors in the tires and take them off to a tire shop to get them mounted and balanced and stuck on the aluminum wheels. I was missing a center cap, so I do have a center cap on the way just to kind of complete the look. I bought new headlights because I tried to use one of those headlamp restore kits and it wasn't working out that well. The headlights aren't really that bright, probably because of how fogged up and nasty they are. It also could have something to do with the fact that I got bigger tires on the back and the front, so I was probably nosediving a little bit, which was affecting my range of lighting. The funny thing is, as soon as we got this thing rolling, we realized it was like running on fumes. It was almost out of gas, and so we test drove it to the gas station to fill up on gas. I didn't have the battery in yet because I hadn't really figured out how I was going to do that. I started it on my Noco jump starter. That thing is sweet. I bought it on Amazon. I got a good price on it. I bought it because I have a Cummins diesel and I wanted to be able to jumpstart that. This is really the first vehicle I've got to use it on. It was charged, I think, 3/4 of the way. I hooked it up, just clamped it on. We fired it up. It fired up no problem. Drove it to the gas station. We were a little nervous, and so we didn't turn the car off like you're supposed to when we were filling it up with gas. But we went ahead and filled it up with gas, drove it back here, and it ran. You know, we could tell it was kind of cutting out because when we would let off the gas and idle, the headlights would get dim and then kind of brighten back up. I guess the alternator would take control. But we made it back. I backed it up in here, shut it off. So far, I'm happy. Like I said, I'm going to see what all I have to do to actually get it licensed and titled in my name. And I got to do the safety inspection, which I'm probably going to wait until I get the good tires put on it. After all that stuff's done, I'll do a why I bought this and how much I paid and how much work I did. This isn't for everyone, you know. If I didn't have a shop, I would not have done this if I had to do this outside. You know, having a shop makes a big difference. If I had paid a mechanic to do this, I wouldn't have been able to afford it. It would have been more expensive than this car's worth. So, you know, I just did it myself, and I'm happy. I'm glad it turned out well. So far, I've got what 6 miles on the vehicle. So far it's good. The car itself has 150,000 miles on it. The engine's 140. Transmission's still original. I did put all new fluid through the transmission afterwards, so it's got fresh, clean fluid. The old fluid wasn't that bad, so that was kind of a relief that I also don't need to throw a transmission in it. So that's it. I'm gonna keep working on it. Thanks for watching, everybody.